The year 2020 marked the 25th anniversary of Coca-Cola's well-known Christmas commercial, but hardly anyone knows that it all started back in 1995 when the company decided to release a commercial that would win people's hearts all over the world. Donair Company, one of the largest advertising agencies of the time and one of the contributors to the filming of Star Wars, was appointed as the executor of such a big project. In order to make this commercial, the scriptwriters looked for more than a dozen red trucks around the country, which were later decorated with tens of thousands of colored light bulbs. Of course, we should mention the slogan "Holidays are coming," which had been on everyone's lips in a matter of days. Needless to say that the 1995 video not just broke the jackpot, becoming the central symbol of the new year and Christmas, but also turned into a synonym of the holiday for several generations to come worldwide. Sure, it's a great commercial for a big brand, but what is the story behind the legendary drink, the one that for over 100 years, has been the most popular and desired beverage on all the continents? How did it all start? How did it evolve? And who was the genius who invented it all? Discover the answers to these and many other questions in our video. No doubt, the history behind the drink beloved by millions is fascinating, but it wouldn't be complete without mentioning its creator. John Stith Pemberton was born July 8, 1831, in Knoxville, Georgia, in the family of James Clifford and Martha Gant. Shortly after the boy's birth, his parents moved to Columbus, while his uncle John Clifford Pemberton later became a general in the Confederate Army. John spent his childhood and youth in Columbus, where he later graduated from pharmacy school. We cannot say that his family was poor, but we can hardly call them extremely rich either. However, there was enough money to pay for his son's education, given the Civil War going on at the time. Pemberton fought in the Confederate Army during that very war in the United States and even earned the rank of lieutenant colonel by the end of the conflict. However, in April 1865, at the age of 34, he was wounded at the Battle of Columbus, and like many other veterans of that time, he became addicted to morphine. On the other hand, John liked various chemical experiments, being extremely passionate about making syrups and his own medicines. After the defeat of the Confederates, the former Army cavalryman ended up unemployed and had to make ends meet. So, he opened a drug store upon moving from his native Columbus to Atlanta. There he spent months trying to create a syrup formula that would save him not only from headaches and fatigue in a matter of minutes but also from the pain he suffered terribly due to his wounds. After all, the morphine was no longer effective, and the pain only worsened with each passing day. Back then, medicine was scarce, and not much was known about the harms of morphine. However, John realized that such an addiction would not lead to anything good, so he spent days and nights looking for another, more effective drug. One hot May morning, John was working in the backyard of his house, mixing various plant extracts and damiana extract in a copper basin once again. On that day, he finally created something that would shortly catch the attention of the whole town. The resulting syrup worked not only for the pain but also boosted his strength and mood. A few weeks later, upon testing such a miraculous brainchild on himself, John brought it to his pharmacy, selling it as a cure for headaches, nausea, and gastritis. The cost of one glass of syrup didn't even exceed 5 cents. It is worth saying that John's old friend and accountant Frank Mason Robinson liked the drink. It was Frank, with his beautiful, calligraphic handwriting, who came up with the name of the syrup and wrote it using the curly letters that are so familiar to us. The logo has hardly changed since then, and it remains the same as it was originally created about 100 years ago. In fact, Frank also became the author of the drink's first advertising slogan. The words "Drink Coca-Cola" caught the attention of thousands of citizens, and soon the pharmacist was selling 9 glasses of the drink in one day, being very satisfied with the results. We should also note that drugstores at that time were slightly different from what we are used to seeing now. People came there just to spend their time, and often in such places, there were tables where they were serving soda, and later there were even special automatic machines. So, day by day, the customer base grew, and the drink surprised many people. Moreover, customers said that it helped to calm them down and that it gave them a sense of peace of mind. Anyway, it was Frank who later advised John to patent the syrup recipe as a cure for nervous disorders. The Coca-Cola formula was quite simple. By that time, 2 main components were known: coca leaves and caffeine from the tropical nuts of the kundra tree. At this point, we should note that cocaine was not an illegal substance at the time, and no one knew anything about its health hazards, so it was freely available. It was often added to drinks instead of alcohol for pleasure and vitality, and Coca-Cola was not groundbreaking in this matter. In the first year of sales, John earned as much as $50 while spending $70 on its components. Thus, The year was unprofitable, but with each passing day, sales of the miracle drink grew, so soon there were queues lined up outside the pharmacy, including people coming from neighboring towns and villages for this medicine. 1 year later, all of Atlanta knew about Coca-Cola. That's when the first advertising campaign started. All the pharmacy owners who bought Coca-Cola hung a big sign near the pharmacy entrance saying in beautiful handwriting, "Coca-Cola for sale here." In fact, the syrup was originally gas-free, and it was by accident that Coca-Cola became carbonated. According to legend, a hungover southerner stopped by Jacob's Pharmacy, which sold Coca-Cola, and ordered a glass of the drink. The salesman was too lazy to go to the waterworks to the other end of the hall and asked the customer if he wouldn't mind taking a soda with the Pemberton syrup. The man agreed, and when he drank it, he was thrilled. So, it turned out that the lazy salesman made an incredible discovery without even imagining what he had actually come up with. Once that know-how was discovered, the other salesmen started doing the same thing. Probably the Coca-Cola story would have had a different twist, but John wasn't a very good entrepreneur. Moreover, the inventor of the miracle recipe suffered a sharp decline in health, so he lacked the necessary capital to expand the business further. In 1888, he made the conscious decision to sell the recipe for Coca-Cola and all the necessary equipment to various partners. 2/3 of the company was sold to Wineland, the discoverer of the Coca-Cola fizzy version. But that was just the recipe, while the most interesting stuff happened a little later. Sometime later, Asa Candler, a poor immigrant from Ireland, showed up in Atlanta. Upon arrival, he had only $1.75 in his pockets, but he strongly believed he would make his fortune in the new place. Possessing a remarkable commercial talent, he soon made a small fortune and purchased the Coca-Cola recipe from Pemberton's widow for $2,000. Back then, it was a lot of money. He founded the Coca-Cola Company in Georgia with his brother and 2 other companions, including accountant John Frank Mason Robinson. If Pemberton was the father of the drink, Asa Candler became the father of the Coca-Cola Company, registering it on January 31, 1893, which is still producing the drink today. Together with Frank, the entrepreneurs started to improve the drink formula so as to increase its shelf life. They realized that the perishable product could not travel long distances, and businessmen at the time were already hatching plans to sell Coca-Cola in neighboring states and even abroad. It is worth noting that Asa turned out to be a very entrepreneurial and creative executive. He constantly came up with new ways to promote Coca-Cola, so once he suggested putting up 2 stands with the drink for free in one of the drugstores. Instead, the pharmacy owner gave him the names and addresses of loyal customers, so he simply sent coupons for free Coca-Cola to those addresses, thereby promoting the drink to the masses. The pharmacy owners were thrilled with this clever managerial move because when customers came to the pharmacy, they didn't just drink Coca-Cola but bought other things for home, so the sales turnover in pharmacies was growing every day. Moreover, Asa suggested selling all sorts of souvenirs with the company's merchandise to people to make the brand more recognizable. Asa is the man who could turn ordinary syrup into a globally recognizable brand. So, since 1894 the drink has been appearing in glass bottles on store shelves, making the drink's packaging unique and recognizable. At that time, Earl R. Dean joined the company, a designer inspired by the godette skirt fashion of the time, creating the most recognizable glass bottle in the world. The unconventional shape of the 6.5-ounce, dark green bell-shaped bottle stood out from all of the products that sold liquor at the time. The unusual container had a subconscious effect on customers. The tasty drink seemed unique, and its popularity skyrocketed. Creating its own bottle not only brought the company a great profit but also protected it from counterfeiting. The company has a legend that Candler was once contacted by a friend who promised to tell him the secret of a rapid increase in the firm's profits. Candler paid him a lot of money for the secret, and upon receiving the check, the man leaned over and whispered in Candler's ear, "Pour the drink into bottles." Candler refused to follow the advice because the bottles were exploding at the time, leading to lawsuits. Nevertheless, in 1899, the first bottled Coca-Cola plant was built in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and by the early 1920s, the number of such plants had surpassed 1,000. We should also mention the years of World War I. Not many people know that Coca-Cola sponsored supplies of donated blood for wounded soldiers worldwide. This is how the friendship with the Red Cross started, lasting for over 100 years. In 1919, Asa Candler, in his old age, sold Coca-Cola to Ernest Woodruff, an able Atlanta banker, and a group of other investors for $25 million, realizing he had no one to run the company. Thanks to his efforts, in 1990, Coca-Cola became the most famous company in the world, and control passed into the hands of the son Robert Woodruff, who held the position for 60 years and became a real living legend of the company. The new Coca-Cola Company president focused on the drink's quality. Robert Woodruff created the Coca-Cola Export Corporation, dedicated to developing the Coca-Cola Company's business worldwide. In the same year, uniform standards were approved for the production and sale of bottled cola, from the formulation and mixing of the drink to the placement of bottles on store shelves. By that time, enormous ships from all over the world were arriving and loading up on Coca-Cola, all so that it could be tasted on every continent. Robert, in turn, invested huge amounts of money in the brand's advertising campaign and opened new factories in Cuba, the Philippines, and France. During his leadership, the famous slogans "The Pause That Refresh" and "Good to the Last Drop" appeared. In 1928, Coca-Cola became the official partner of the Olympic movement, becoming the first drink of the Olympics. In general, no one could stop the brand's popularity. It became associated with the American dream, freedom, and that faraway land called America. Everyone, from the African desert to the cold Scandinavian countries, preferred Coca-Cola when choosing a drink. The production of souvenir products that promoted the Coca-Cola trademark brought the company unprecedented success. The easily recognized trademark became a part of everyday life and started its triumphal march worldwide. People saw the Coca-Cola logo on the covers of fashion magazines and on huge posters along the roads. At the same time, Coca-Cola's advertising featured bright and conspicuous images that resonated with every American. The most famous artists and athletes advertised the drink. It is also worth noting the competitiveness of Pepsi Cola, another industry giant with a fascinating story behind it. By the way, the famous Santa Claus appeared during Robert's leadership and was created by the Michigan artist Haddon Sundblom. Santa Claus was based on his own image, but the artist drew a bottle of Coca-Cola instead of a cigar. For another 30 years, Sandblom created a new picture of Santa for each Christmas. Today, these works have become priceless pieces of Coca-Cola's archives. These works have been exhibited at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, major department stores in Tokyo and Stockholm, as well as at the Louvre in Paris, and some of these paintings can be seen as part of the permanent exhibition at the Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta. By the way, there are so many little things in our lives associated with Coca-Cola that sometimes we don't even notice it. For example, in 1933, the first Coca-Cola bottle vending machines appeared, and the stores started offering six-packs, packages of 6 bottles, successfully reaching the new millennium. At the same time, the Coca-Cola Company developed another innovation, namely, remote coolers installed in any store, allowing customers to pick up a cooled bottle of their favorite beverage. Thus, the last barrier between the consumer and the final product, the counter, disappeared. Yes, Coca-Cola invented the refrigerators we all see in the halls of our stores today. Well, we have slowly approached the time of the Second World War, which also changed the company's development. The outbreak of war forced management to reduce the cost of their product significantly, and Robert Woodruff assigned his employees a difficult but achievable task: to provide soldiers with the opportunity to buy a drink for only 5 cents, so Coca-Cola's goal was to boost the patriotic spirit of the soldiers. Indeed, wartime did not cause much of a loss to the company. Management's policy paid off in just 1 year. After the war ended, Coca-Cola became even more recognizable, and the number of partners who wanted to work with the company grew daily. There were rumors that even Marshal Zhukov of the Soviet Union appreciated the drink. The post-war period was a time of development and change for the company. Coca-Cola was launched in new 0.33-liter and 0.77-liter bottles, aluminum cans, and, later, plastic cans, while the Coca-Cola family was expanded with the new Fanta and Sprite brands. Along with the Olympics, the company became an official sponsor of the FIFA World Cup. In 1982, Coca-Cola Light, the first diet drink of its kind, appeared on store shelves and quickly became the most popular product among low-calorie beverages. More and more flavors were introduced, including Coca-Cola in cherry, vanilla, and lime flavors, and in 1988 Coca-Cola entered the closed market of the USSR. The production was set up at the Moskvitz brewery. In fact, the 1990s were a time of advertising boom for the company, when one of its most famous commercials appeared. The spot of the Northern Lights with polar bears made a big splash. First of all, the idea proved to be worthwhile, and secondly, it was the first time that computer effects were used in the creation of an advertising campaign. Since then, the polar bear has become another symbol of Coca-Cola, ranking on par with Santa Claus. In 1997, the company set a world record, selling as many drinks in 12 months as it had sold in the previous 7.5 decades. Just imagine these figures in volume. No one doubted that Coca-Cola was the most popular beverage in the world. Since the early 2000s, the company has grown and improved rapidly in all sectors, changing the bottle's design, and making it more durable and lighter. Coca-Cola also spends huge sums to create environmentally friendly containers and recycle them, while the scale of cooperation with other companies has been growing yearly. In 2017, Coca-Cola changed its development strategy because consumers' tastes are changing, which means that the company is changing with them. In just 1 year, the company has reduced its beverages' sugar content several times and revealed a convenient packaging format. The company produces 4,100 different products in 900 plants worldwide while owning 500 brands, 21 worth more than $1 billion. Today the drink is officially sold in all countries of the world. Whether you're the President of America or a homeless person, a first-year student from a poor African country, or a doctor of sciences, you can easily give an exact answer to the question of what Coca-Cola is, because, according to statistical data, 94% of the inhabitants of the whole planet have at least once tasted Coca-Cola. Here are more interesting facts about Coca-Cola. It removes rust well, and this effect is achieved due to the phosphoric acid content in Coca-Cola. Cola is also known for removing limescale in the kettle and plaque on the toilet bowl, but we do not recommend using it for this purpose because, for this purpose, there are specialized products containing acid. Coca-Cola is used to wash away blood stains, and American police officers even keep several cartons of Coke in their squad cars to wash away blood stains from the asphalt at the scene of an accident. As for volume, if all the produced Coca-Cola were distributed in bottles to all inhabitants of the planet, then each of us would receive about 800 bottles of the miracle drink. Moreover, every second, 8,000 glasses of Coca-Cola are drunk in the world. It is also interesting that the very first outdoor Coca-Cola billboard, drawn back in 1904, is still in its place in the town of Cartersville, Georgia. Another curious thing is that the two countries with the highest per capita consumption of Coca-Cola in the world have absolutely nothing in common. There is vast, continental, subtropical Mexico on one side, and on the other, there is tiny, insular, circumpolar Iceland. These are the countries where Coke is consumed the most. The longest Coca-Cola delivery route is in Australia. The company's truck drivers have to travel a 1,120-mile route to deliver products from Perth, South Australia, to Karatha and Port Hedland. Well, we would like to mention the last days of the man who invented this world-famous beverage. After all, as it often happens, once the creator invented something, he could not even imagine what would happen to his brainchild many years later. The thing is that the founder of Coca-Cola died in complete poverty, at the relatively young age of 57, on August 16, 1888, and was buried in a cemetery for poor people. The streets collected money for his funeral, and only 70 years later, a stone tombstone was erected for the founder of Coca-Cola. Well, that's the reality of our lives. Could John Stith Pemberton have ever imagined that he would invent something that would change our world forever? I don't think so. But today, Coca-Cola is one of the leading brands in the world. The company promotes the separation of waste, participates in environmental events, and has developed a special program to inform young people. The world giant is rapidly evolving, continues to surprise with new flavors, and of course, the original advertising, which from year to year, is only getting better. All in all, there are endless stories about Coca-Cola, but we have tried to compress all the information as much as possible and select all the most interesting. This brings us to the end of this video. If you like the video, please consider subscribing and sharing so we can keep bringing more content like this. Also, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.